no different to any other religion, except that they say that it is. My position is very clear, and I'll say it from the start. There's something very odd in the world that we live in at the moment, and most of the it's going to take about 3 minutes. Most of the belief systems that existed in the world prior to, say, the last 150 years or so were geostrategic in nature, geospecific in nature, meaning that if you came from Arabia, chances are you would be a Muslim. If you came from Rajasthan, you'd be a Hindu. If you came from Pakistan, even though Pakistan's only been here since '48, you would be a Muslim. If you came from Brazil, you would be a Catholic. So we know that in terms of religious belief, in fact, can I just take that back? Brazil didn't actually practice Catholicism before, neither did Peru. We know that under Peru, the belief system, they believed in Viracocha. We know that in Japan, they believed in Izanagi. We know that in China, they believe in the ruler gods, which was Jade the Emperor. And if you're looking at the goddess of mercy, it was Guanxing. We know that if you were a black African, and remember, Africa's a continent. It's a whole continent, but you had different beliefs, multiple beliefs in that country at the time. So if you were Ghanaian, you would believe in Niami. If you were Yoruba, you would believe in Olarun. And so if you came from Australia, you believe in Balinicha.
Yeah.
The point that I'm making is that in Islam makes many claims, and they make claims which no other religion does. I'll come to that in a moment. But if you look at the belief systems that exist in the world, I mean, I think I stopped at around about, I think it was just over 2,700 different deities. But what all of these deities had in common is that they all preceded Islam. Even though Islam says that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the reason I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam is because if people have a belief in their faith, I have no right or no reason to discredit that faith that they have, because that's their particular belief. I believe that everyone has a right to have whatever faith they like. Where I draw the line is where you take which is faith, because you've never met Muhammad alayhi salam, you've never met him, you've never met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've never met him. You can only go by what someone else has told you. So you've then got to take in what you intrinsically believe and then apply it to the belief system that you wish to believe. I don't have any problem with that. From my view, because I look at the whole entire world and I see all of these so-called gods that existed prior to Muhammad. I look in Arabia 1400 plus years ago, and I saw and I've studied that there are over 360 religions, 360 gods in Arabia at that particular time. During that period, we know that there was lots of internecine wars and struggles that were taking place in that part of the world. I cannot look at the religious perspective without first looking at what the political perspective was at the time, and I then tried to marry up the two. For example, we know that with the Kaaba, we know that those 360 idols were based in and around the Kaaba. We now know this as a historical fact. If I'm wrong, just interrupt me at any time. Yet, those 360 idols, if you look at them, some of them were goddesses. Example, you know, you had Al-Nat, you had Hanul, you had, normally my daughter reminds me of who they are. I mean, if you look at Al-Nat, if you look at the Arabic translation of that's into the Greek, it's Aphrodite. You had all of these gods that were worshipped at the Kaaba at the time. Those 360 gods have been decimated by the internecine struggle and the triumph of a particular group, the Quraysh, they have absolutely dismantled everyone else, but when you make your Hajj, and I made Hajj in '97, yeah, we still went around the same Kaaba where there were 360 guards, because if you look at the political situation in Arabia at that time, it was a major trading area, you understand, and they could not have what they were having at that particular time, you understand, which is all these competing wars and these competing struggles. All of a sudden, an illiterate Bedouin claims that he went into a cave and he said that he didn't see, he said that he heard someone that he described as Gabriel or Jibrail, and he said he didn't see him, he said he heard him. And whilst he was in this cave, he said an instruction was given to him, which was Iqra, yeah, obviously meaning to read. He said, well, how can I read? I can't read. And the instruction was given, read in the name of Allah. He didn't know this. Muhammad left the cave, and Muhammad went and he spoke to his father-in-law, was Abu Bakr. From there, this religion started to spread, but for me, I believe that it was political in nature as opposed to religious, which I believe was secondary. During that particular area at the time, we know that polytheism dominated. We know that there was a plethora of Iranian religions there at the time. We know that there was Judaism. We know that there were people who believed in the Second Testament, and we also know that there were people who believed in the First Testament. The First Testament being those who say that they follow the Torah, the Second Testament meaning those who follow the Injil. I don't call them Old Testament and New Testament, it's the First Testament and the Second Testament. Now, one of the claims that have been made is that Islam, yeah, is a perfect religion, and that the Quran cannot be contradicted by scientists or anyone else. This, I say, is palpable nonsense. The instruction allegedly given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that he took in this revelation, if I'm wrong, correct me please, over a 23-year period. I say the reason why it took that long is because Islam was a mishmash, yeah, of the prevailing religions at the time, and this book was constructed as a political act first and as a religion second. Another one of the problems that I have is that when you have the Quran, if the Quran was simply, here's a book and you can study it, just like we study any other book, there wouldn't be a problem with that, because that's your faith and you want me to look at your faith. As I said, when you step over that particular line and then it becomes that Muhammad is the last prophet, that means I cannot question him. The Quran is perfect, that means I cannot question that. They say that they are a monotheistic religion, but the truth is Islam is not monotheistic within their own Islamic ummah. It's not monotheistic. And so earlier on, when I was speaking to a Muslim man and I mentioned the Shia, for example, his thing was that they are not Muslims. So remember, he cannot know, he can only tell you what his faith is. So he has immediately consigned to the dustbin of history 13% of the world's Muslims, because he says they do not believe in the way in which they should. My last point is this. And I apologize for taking so long.
No, not to worry about that. Carry on.
My last point is simply this. If you look at the religion of Islam, and they say that it is a religion of peace, I was always taught when my father was alive that whatever you find in the microcosm, you find it in the whole. Meaning that if you encounter something and it's negative in the beginning, the chances are that negativity will prevail, and so you should keep away from it. And so I go back then to the origins of Muhammad alayhi salam and those who believed allegedly as he believed. I look at what happened immediately after the death of the Prophet alayhi salam. And we saw that there was a schism immediately, because there were those who believed that his cousin Ali, should have been a caliph, the first caliph. There were others, and I remember, for example, when I read the sermon, I think it was the last sermon by Muhammad, and if you read the last sermon and you were to believe that, I don't know whether to believe it or not, I can only tell you that I read it, but if you read the last sermon by Muhammad alayhi salam, it was very clear that Ali was the one that was chosen by the Prophet. The schism meant that there was a group of people who said that it should be Abu Bakr. Now, there was war at the time. Muhammad engaged in many wars, and I don't want to be specific, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Abu Bakr, after the death of Muhammad alayhi salam, died 2 years after him, and he was also, as far as I'm concerned, an expansionist. But after the death of Abu Bakr, you then had the second caliph, who was Umar. Umar brought warfare to a whole different level, and it was Umar that introduced the jizya, for example. I think it was Umar that introduced that. He introduced two different taxes. One, he says, for those who believe, and one for those who didn't believe. Those who didn't believe found it the clever thing to do was to then convert, because if they converted, they wouldn't pay taxes unless they were landowners, and then of course then you would have to pay a percentage of that. Umar, who was a practitioner of the perfect religion, was murdered as the second caliph after Abu Bakr. After Umar came Uthman. Uthman, strangely enough, didn't last any real period of time, from the perfect religion. Uthman was also murdered. Hey presto, we then go to Ali. Ali then becomes the fourth caliph, because it was a political move, and I said that the politics of that time are very, 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 very interesting, and they brought in Ali. Now remember, whatever you find in the microcosm, you find in the whole. The actions of some Muslims today, I say, date back to the origins of this particular belief system. Ali, as the fourth caliph, was, as you are aware, he was prostrate in prayer, and whilst he was in prayer, he was assassinated. I don't like that term. He was murdered by those who claim. We know that Islam wanted to destroy Christianity, because at their very root and their very nature, they are expansionists and they are murderous at their root. Now, you would be entitled to then ask me, bearing in mind the claims that I have made, what is my belief? And that would be, as far as I'm concerned, that would be justifiable for asking what I believe. I cannot say with absolute certainty that there is not a God, and so I am henotheistic in my belief system. Henotheistic meaning that if you're a Muslim and you're walking past me and I see you, I have no reason to traduce you if you are polite to me. So if you walk past me and you say Salaam Alaikum, I will say Wa Alaikum Salam, and I will say that because it's a term of respect. However, if I'm in if I'm in Japan and I go to the temple with my daughter, and when we were over there, and we know that a lot of their belief system surrounds Isanagi. Do you understand? We are totally respectable, and I can say the greeting in Japan, but it doesn't come over. It's just like my Arabic, very poor. But I will have that respect for him. So that's that henotheism which exists. One thing that I am clear of is that there is nobody on this planet that knows. One thing that I would say, and I promise you this is my last point, is that I am completely convinced that whoever wrote the Quran, whoever wrote great portions of the Quran, whoever wrote great portions of the Bible, of the Second Testament, and whoever wrote great portions of the Torah, I'll forget the other books. I won't bring up the Mahabharata and how it seems as if the Quran is lifted, just like the New Testament lifted whole passages from the Mahabharata. I mean, how does that go? Is it going to be the argument that the Pope has said? Well, they knew that the prophets were coming, and so Satan put this in the Mahabharata. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. That's the Pope's argument. So I'm saying that I cannot accept that belief system. What I can accept is that people will have different faiths and different beliefs. I do know, and I'm quite certain of, that Islam is no more prevalent and no more believable than any other systems. And the only thing that should drive you is your faith. If you come to me as a Muslim and you come to me with your faith, I will have absolute respect. If it comes to war, I will defend you. You understand? I will defend you because you have your faith and you have your right to your belief. What I don't think you have a right to do is to then tell me that if I don't have the same belief system as you, then I'm a kuffar. You understand? I'm a disbeliever. If I believe as you did and I don't believe now, I'm an apostate and I should be put to death. This is not the religion of a God that I would wish to be associated with. That's my point. So please forgive me for speaking so long.
Not a problem. I'm Shabir. You are?
Shabir, Robert.
Robert,
Big
nice
Robert.
meeting you.
Yeah.
Okay. Big brother.
Big Robert.
Oh, Big Robert.
I can be a big brother as well.
I call you Big Bro.
Yeah, everybody calls me Big Bro.
I was about to say Big Bro. Right, okay. There were quite a few points that you made. But just to start off, can I ask you, Robert, you have said many things and you constantly said, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe.
Yeah.
What yardstick are you actually using to determine what you have determined?
Very simple question. I have a very simple answer, and it's a good question. The yardstick that I'm using is very, very simple. What we get from looking at the world as it exists, we understand that somehow everything in existence runs according to a program. So for example, you don't see a bird flying into McDonald's to have breakfast, but you will see a bird in the grass picking up a worm. Why is that? Because that bird is programmed to eat that worm in the grass. We are not the same. If you look at an elephant doesn't act the way in which a tiger does, because all of these particular beings, all of these sentient beings have a particular programming within them. I believe that there are certain things which are innate to us as human beings. So for example, if you were to ask me, like I have my wife for example, and God knows I love her to death, but she gets on my nerves sometimes. I know through my programming as a human being that it would be quite unjust, because she says something that I don't like, to go up and give her a left hook in the face. Now there are some people who do that. My argument is the reason why they do that is because there is an error somewhere in their programming that causes them to act like that. So when I say I believe according to the programming that we are given as human beings. For example, the Bible doesn't have to give me 630 odd commandments, which is what the Jews say. There's 633, I think it is, commandments. You don't have to tell me thou shalt not kill. I know that thou shalt not kill because that's programmed into my nature. I would never murder somebody because I believe that it's the antithesis of what makes me a human being. However, I would kill somebody, which is different from murder. So if you see me and you see my daughter, leave us in peace, because if you put your hands on my daughter, I will kill you. I don't call that murder. But I also say that's part of my programming as a parent, that I would wish to protect my daughter. So in answer, very quickly, is that I believe that when I say I believe according to my innate nature, do you understand, and the world as I see it.
No problem at all. You see, the criteria is quite important, and what you have basically told me in a nutshell, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm taking what you said, in a nutshell you have told me that what you are basically saying about this innate nature is subjective. So,
No, it's not. It's not.
if I can just, what I mean by that is,
Yeah.
for example, your contention is that a person who may murder has got something wrong with their program. That's what you said.
I'm saying that is my belief.
That is, yeah, exactly. That's your belief.
But they have they can make that decision.
But if that person came to you
Yes.
and told you, I have every justification because I believe this to be my innate nature, would that be wrong?
Well, yes, it would, and I'll tell you the reason why. But be very clear that I said to you that there is a clear distinction between killing somebody and murdering somebody. For example, if you were attacked and you had a stick and somebody came up to you and you whacked him over the head and he died, you understand, that would be justifiable because this person acted in a way that he wished to take away your particular freedom, so he acted in accordance with his nature.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah.
You see, Robert, the problem is when you are making a distinction between killing and murder,
Yes.
it is based on the legal system that you have experienced of.
No, it's not.
If I can, you see, because the definition
I'm
of...
sorry, I'm going to stop you very
If I
quickly.
can just-
No, just 1 minute, Shabir. Yeah, because
Robert, I never interjected.
Yeah, I know
once,
you didn't. I know
but
you
can
didn't. But let me just say to you, it's not. You're going down a road that I haven't asked. I said to you, and I'm very clear, that it's not built on jurisprudence and this system. I said to you, it's built on the innate nature.
Robert, you see, the innate nature you
Yes.
are talking about, I cannot see, I cannot test, I cannot assess. I would have to go on what you say. Well, then in that case, you are agreeing with me. If I came and said to you, Robert, I kill, I murder, this distinction you are making, yes, is because my nature allows me to do that. Because it cannot be tested, it cannot be assessed, and you certainly don't have an external yardstick to determine whether yours is the right one or mine is the right one.
But I do.
We have an,
I'll
if I
explain
can-
when you finish,
We have an issue. Now, the reason I'm bringing up the system, because you are accustomed to it, the definition of murder and the definition of killing are two separate things. Yes? The reason they are separate is, what's the reason that they are separate? Because the act itself, in its finality,
Yes.
is the death of a being.
Yeah.
Why and how do you distinguish between murder and kill?
Well, let me just say to you.
Because that will be, from my perspective, Robert, that would be subjected to certain rules, objective ones,
Okay.
which we all as a society can adhere to.
Okay.
So tell me how we can work on the
Well, what I
innate
would
one.
do, I would go back to the origins of Islam, and I would ask you, for example, if you look at the fourth caliph, which is Ali, is there any way that you can justify Ali being murdered whilst he's prostrate on the floor praying?
Okay.
So I'll turn it back on you.
Okay, you can certainly turn it back on me. But before we answer that question, you have to establish whether he was murdered or killed. Which one?
Well, let me just say to you, I'm asking you to make that distinction, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because whatever you say to me, the root of your belief, is enshrined within the Quran and with the teachings of Muhammad alayhi salam. That's your belief system. And so what it is, I spoke for quite a while, and I told you my particular problems. What you've done with is it Shabir?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Shabir. Apologize. Yeah, what you've done, Shabir, is that I've spoken to you about what I believe, and you haven't challenged me on that. What you're now doing is going down a particular angle which we were not speaking about. And now what it is, I just mentioned murder and killing, and I deliberately did that. And do you know why I did that? Can I just tell you why I did it? Because I've watched you
It's
on
an afterthought, please.
well, I'm going to be honest. The reason I did that because I've watched you on videos before, and I've seen the way in which you debate with people, and you take something which you believe may well be a weak point, intellectually, religiously, psychologically, scientifically, and you run with it. And that's the reason why I said it to you.
Okay, I have no problem what you think about me. That's entirely your subjective assessment.
No,
But,
actually, I actually think quite good
if I
things
can-
about you.
If I don't mind, good or bad.
No, but I'm just saying, I think good
Robert,
things
I
about
think
you.
we are diverting. If we can just
Okay.
stick to the point. Yeah? You see, I merely asked you, and you went to Ali, and I am saying, look, was it kill or was it murder, according to your innate nature? I want you to directly tell me, because you see, when you said, and rightfully, if Islam as a system, within that system, has got what we would call a legal system, I have got an objective basis to determine whether a killing was murder or a killing was in self-defense or the protection of my child or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Now, the question I'm still asking again.
I'll answer the question if you answer me again.
No problem. The only thing I'm asking you to do, Robert, is this. You see, what you talk about is your innate belief.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Is subjective.
Yeah. And I'm saying that it's not.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah? I am coming and saying, right, look, I kill, I murder, call it what you want. And I am saying to you, like your innate belief system, I am saying my innate belief system allows me to do that.
Yes.
Now, I will take that further. Yeah? You use the word expansionist, etc.
Yes.
Yeah? United Kingdom,
yes.
I'm looking at it on an objective basis because respectfully, anyone who tells me that they are judging everything purely from their innate whatever nature it is, yes, I would humbly suggest that you are living away from reality. Not you personally, anyone.
Well,
but
it would
that's
be me
my
personally because you're speaking to me personally.
No.
But that's fine.
From a perspective.
That's your subjective
because
view.
at this moment in time, I know you drive a car?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
And I use this commonly, the example, yeah? We drive a car, we know that if we go through red lights and there's a police car around, they will pull us up because we are not allowed to go through. This, if I can just, the legal system is objective. What I mean by that is all of us are aware because we go through the driving lessons and the theoretical, we know that look, if you go through red lights, it is illegal. Okay, so every one of us knows that. However, look at it this way, and I want you to consider this. When we go for our driving theory, page number 2 says, going through red lights is for you to decide innately what would happen. Would you agree?
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why I don't agree. Because what you're doing, Shabir, and I don't know if you deliberately do it, but what you're engaging in is religious sophistry. This is what you're doing. Now, I made very clear in the beginning what my particular views are. What you're now indulging in, it's just my view, what you're now indulging in is semantics, and you're taking yourself away from what we were discussing. Now, when I came to speak to you, I was very, very clear about what the origins of Islam was, and I said to you, whatever you find in the microcosm, you find in the whole. Now, if what you're going to do is to speak and not speak on the point that I've made, I'm trying to figure out exactly why we're actually having a conversation. This is religious sophistry that you're dealing with. You're not dealing with the points that I initially made.
In response, I will say this much. You see, Robert, you have said many things. Not once have I suggested you are indulging in X, Y, and Z.
No.
Simply because...
It's my perception. It's a subjective opinion.
That's exactly what I'm pointing out about your innate yardstick also.
Yes.
But you see, if you want to accuse me, I'm using this loosely, I don't mean it on a personal level. If you are going to tell me, you are using religious sophistry, anybody who is aware of me, anyone who knows will really...
I don't know who you know.
If I can say to you, I always usually say I do not subscribe to words like religious. Okay? So, there is the issue. The issue here is very simple, Robert. I don't want you to assess what I am saying, and think about how and why I'm saying it. All I'm saying to you, Robert, is look, I have looked at your paradigm. I am assessing whether your conclusions based on
you're assessing, but I mustn't assess yours.
No, 1 second, if I can finish. I am assessing what you have concluded based on your paradigm. There's a distinction there.
You don't understand my paradigm. I've given you a snippet of what you believe is my paradigm.
Robert, I have to only go on what you said. And you are actually pointing out my contention that if you left it subjectively, you would all be confused. But if we take it a bit further, you see, you said Islam is this, Islam is that, amongst the geopolitical,
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. No, because what you're doing,
Robert,
you're being facetious. What I said to you,
I had not once interjected.
all I said to you, because if you're going to be facetious, I'm going to jump in, Shabir, seriously.
But I'm not.
It's a serious. All I said to you is that most religious beliefs are geo-specific, meaning that wherever you come from in the world, you will have a particular belief system.
No problem. But all I am saying to you, Robert, is this. Look, I am inquiring as to why you have been led to a particular conclusion. And that is why I rightly said, what yardstick have you used? Now, you said about Islam, it was expansionist, it was murderous, you said many things.
Yeah.
What I am saying is, look, all this that you have said is entirely based on your subjective assessment, I'm saying. Yeah?
That is not true.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can explore that. But the point I'm making here is this. Look, if I look at what you said, and I use the example of murder and killing,
Yeah.
we as human beings, by definition, are social animals, as we are told.
Yeah.
Okay? We have to have systems in place for our benefit. A system that includes or encompasses every human interaction, I would suggest, would be a system which has at its base objectivity. Yeah? Now, if I were to, and I have pointed this out and I want you to respond to me on this one, I have pointed out to you that, look, the ultimate yardstick that a human being is going to use,
Yes.
okay, either is going to be a transcendental one, or is going to be one based on human beings. I would submit and I would suggest that it would be the transcendental one rather than the human one. The distinction I'm making here is this one, where you tell me my innate nature tells me X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I am saying, well, actually, I don't trust your innate nature.
Yeah.
How can I justify your position if I say I don't trust your innate nature? And you know why?
Yeah.
Because I can't see through you to determine whether your intent is coming across the way it ought to.
Yeah.
Well, if that is the case, then we are left with this. My definition of honesty is X. Your definition of honesty is Y. His definition of honesty is Z. And each one of us will claim it's my innate nature telling me. How do I overcome that?
Well, I'm saying that firstly, your argument is facetious once again. I have to say that because exactly what you've said to me, I can actually turn that back against you because you make certain claims. For example, you speak about being transcendental as if somehow you have a knowledge that somehow is missing to everyone else. That's not where I went. When I spoke about what's innate, there are certain things which I say are innate to all human beings, okay? And what you've done, you've extrapolated on that and include things that I quite clearly didn't say. Let me give you an example. I said, for example, that if you have a woman, it is not right that you put your hands on her. I know that in Islam there are some hadiths that say, well, you can beat your wife. I'm saying that is not my belief. That I should beat my wife. If I have a problem with my wife and she gets on my nerves and it gets to that, I'm going to leave her. That's my innate belief. Let me tell you the great thing about my innate belief. My innate belief does not impinge upon anybody else and upon what anybody else believes, except you come and you try to do me harm or you try to do my family harm. What you can't do is speak about transcendency as if somehow the belief that you have in transcendency is any more valid than the Japanese Inzaghi, the Chinese Jade, the Chinese Guanxing. Your belief system, as I said to you, Shabir, starts off in a cave, and no matter how much flowery semantics you wish to put on it, that's where your argument falls down. Where your argument stands up is if you say, I have a belief system and my belief system is based on the Quran, my belief system is based on the prophets, and you say that is your belief system, I'm henotheistic, you're more than entitled to have that. What you can't do is speak to me as if somehow you are religiously or transcendentalist superior to mine. Your belief system is not superior to mine. You know, some Muslims that I speak to, not most, I take that back, you understand, they have this very kind of smug, well, you don't know what I know, and so on and so forth. It's nonsense. It started off in a cave, and it started off with an illiterate separate man. Everything that you says, you understand, that is the particular root of it. Last point that you was going to make, when you said, and I'll just repeat again, just for my benefit, that you don't know whether to trust me, you don't need to trust me. That's exactly the point, because nothing that I will do will impinge upon you as Shabir, the human being. Nothing at all.
Absolutely. Robert, if you heard me carefully...
I did actually hear you, Shabir.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
I said a transcendental system.
Yes.
I didn't say myself transcendental. Okay. The distinction is very
Which
clear.
makes it even worse.
Now look, I never interjected.
Well,
Robert.
I'm just saying, Shabir.
Can
I just say to you, it's not a formal
Robert,
debate.
I think you are being unfair.
And if I am, I apologize. I just wanted to make that point.
I keep quiet when you are talking.
Okay.
Allow me the same courtesy.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. Basically, I'm saying a transcendental system. What I mean by that, and I did say that, you see, if it is based on human beings, okay, we are going to have differences, and I'm using this innate yardstick you use. I'm saying, look, we all will have a difference on how we are viewing something. So, when you talk about, whether you like it or not, it started in a cave.
Yes.
Yeah, so what's the problem with that?
No, I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying.
As a statement of fact.
As I'm saying,
Yeah.
there's no problem. In fact, it lends support to Islam even more by the fact that it started in a cave.
I'm not sure I follow that logic, but
No, of course, you won't. But you see, I will take it a bit further and say, look, Robert, I'm not going to impinge on you.
Yes.
Yes? But I will tell you, look, Robert, me and you are sat in a field, yes? And we are talking about something, and we say, look, I think, you know what, that tree seems better than that tree, yeah? Now, if I make the distinction with you, okay, we are talking about something we can observe, yeah? And we say, we agree to disagree that, no, I think this one, you say, no, I think that one, okay? And a third party is just passing by, and we introduce our argument to this third party, and we say to the third party, well, actually, you know what, I'm saying this tree is better, he's saying that tree is better. Which one do you think is better? Now, if we include him in, and he gives us his view, okay, we can still dismiss it. No problem. We'll still hold on to what we want. The issue now arises where if it becomes like we talked about murder and killing, yeah, the issue arises there. That where you need a yardstick, that yardstick would have to be necessarily objective for a group of human beings to adhere to have a cohesive, coherent, peaceful society. Now, we know, you talk about the nature of humans, yes? We know killings occur, murders occur, rapes occur, theft occurs, many things do occur. Each time you are going to suggest that there is something wrong within the inherent makeup, yes, the innate makeup, will not objectively address what we would call the criminal entity that is present in front of the evidence, etc. But if you notice, Robert, each and everything that we do is based entirely on some form of objective evidence. Now, for you to tell me Islam started in a cave, I say, yes, no problem. Hinduism started on Mount Everest, no problem. You tell me, well, my belief system is so-and-so, I said, no problem. Then I would ask, wait a minute, can we actually assess what is being accepted, believed, or adhered to? That is my point. You see, many people tell me, Islam is this, Islam is that, or I am this, I am that. I said, look, no problem. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. However, if you are going to tell me, well, Islam in some hadith says you are allowed to beat up the woman, yeah? I'm thinking, where's Robert read that? Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah? And then I say, well, I've been married, thankfully, for many years. I know she hits me, but I can never remember, just a joke. I have never, not once, do I know of any people also, the group of friends I have, all Muslims, I cannot have one of them say that, yeah, to me. But the question is this, Robert, if I were to turn around to you and tell you, look, I beat this woman up, and you tell me, look, your innate nature doesn't allow you to do that. And I said to you, Robert, my innate nature allows me perfectly to do that. Yes? We would have to, according to your standard, Robert, we would have to respect each other's opinion.
No, that's not true.
If I can finish.
That's totally
one second.
That's not what I said.
Can I just finish?
Yeah, of course
you can by all means disagree with me after.
Okay.
Yes? You see, you would have to agree with me. The moment you disagree with me, you have actually established my contention that the yardstick you are using is a yardstick that is not worth the words that you talk to me about then. It's not worth anything because the yardstick is very, very vulnerable to certain forms of action.
We love it.
Right, let me just say to you, first and foremost, your contention is completely wrong, and I think that you misunderstand the term objectivity. The way in which you mention the term objectivity, it's also subjective, because your understanding of objectivity is not my understanding of objectivity. Let me just bring you back for a moment, because we were speaking about innate nature, and I was saying what I believe would be permissible according to my nature and what wouldn't be. I didn't say that it wouldn't mean that I couldn't act like that. I'm just saying to you that it would go against what I believe nature is. Now, you said to me, and you mentioned objectivity, and you said it's not worth the word. I'll bring you back to what I said originally. Two things I said. Firstly, I said that you're entitled to your belief, that I will not stop you or try to or attempt to stop you from having any belief that you want. Secondly, if you're talking in terms, actually there's 3 points. Secondly, I made very clear that what my views are, that I'm a peaceful person and that I prefer to go in peace. I don't believe that's subjective. I believe that peace is peace. Peace in my life, is the absence, of consternation. As far as I'm concerned, I made clear that whereas I would change is if you put your hands on my daughter, then I would kill you. It's as simple as that, because you don't have a right to put your hands on the daughter. So, bearing in mind that your programming has gone off, and I made clear what my position was going to be in the beginning, then you would then have to understand that I wasn't playing and I was actually speaking the truth. One of the things that you said that was quite interesting, I'm not quite certain where you were going with it, but it was an argument that made no sense. And what I'm going to do every time is bring it back to Islam. You said if we were sitting down and we saw 2 trees, and you said, all right, Robert, which tree do you like? And I said, I like that one. You said, well, I like that one. You then said, well, what if a third person comes along and he likes that tree? Then obviously there's going to be some confusion. I would say to you, that's exactly what happened in Islam. There wasn't one person looking at a tree or 2 people looking at a tree. There were 360 different idols. And what Islam did was eliminate them. They eliminated those belief systems by murdering, and you wouldn't say murder because quite clearly you advocated the killing of Ali and you said that wasn't murder, it was justified. But the point that I was making is that how you would deal with the consternation with the tree, with the 360 idols, we know how you would deal with it, or we know how the so-called Muslims at the time dealt with it. They killed all of them. So at the end of the day, I would be looking at the tree and I'd be thinking to myself, I might have to kill Shabir. You understand? Because I know the nature of Shabir and Shabir's belief through the belief system that he has. And this is the reason why I say to you, Shabir, that when you mention being transcendental, you mention objectivity, these are wonderful words to throw about, but you throw it around with a certainty that for me doesn't make any sense. I'm speaking about, let me finish,
Okay.
I'm not going to speak as long as you this time. I'm speaking about the nature of Islam. What you can't do is, and sometimes when I've heard you, like earlier on today, you speak about everything apart from Islam, and sometimes I'm not quite certain whether you speak just to hear the sound of your own voice. But I'm telling you that when we are speaking, I'd like to stay on a particular point. I spoke for a long time in the beginning about my view on Islam. Now, I always say to everybody when I'm speaking I want you to correct me if you believe that I have told any lies when I've spoken about matters regarding Islam. Because you see, the only thing that really exists eternally, as far as I'm concerned, it's my innate belief again, is the truth. And I believe that I've spoken the truth. However, I'm not as arrogant to believe that all truth resides in me.
That's right.
And so I've made clear that whilst I do not believe in the so-called God of your religion, I'm not arrogant enough to believe that there isn't a body or a system that exists, you understand, that explains why we as humans have the programmings that we have, or any other sentient being, any other sentient animal. This is what I have. But no amount of semantical sophistry, speaking about cars and driving tests, can take me away from the point that if we're here to speak about Islam and the origins of Islam, I will tell you that I will only speak about Islam with you. And no amount of religious sophistry from you, whether you like the word or not, is going to divert me from that point.
Are you finished? Right. Are you finished, Robert?
Good.
I'm finished. You go ahead, Shabir.
Going back to what you are saying.
Yes.
You see, with the greatest respect, I will say this. You are entitled to your
I'm
confusion.
always wary when someone
no
says
problem.
with the greatest respect.
Yeah, you are entitled to your confusion.
Yeah.
But also, you are misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When we talked about Ali, I said, was it a killing or was it a murder?
Yes.
You somehow translated that to mean that I was accepting what had happened. No. Number two, I
Sorry,
told...
Shabir, I didn't want to interrupt, Shabir. There's just one thing, just to clarify. I'm actually going to support your contention one moment.
Can I finish?
All I'm saying to you is that if somebody was praying and they were murdered whilst praying, and you're going to ask me whether it was justified or not, to kill somebody in that manner is always murder. In my universe anyway, Shabir.
In your universe, which is subjective, of course.
Yeah.
You see, the word objective, like I said, you see, when you talk about the killing, I will ask a next question. Were the perpetrators brought to book with Ali?
You misunderstand my point.
No. Ask now. Look, you've asked me. I'm
you
asking.
can ask me, but what you can't
see,
do, Shabir, what you can't
are
do.
you going to tell me how I must discuss
No,
this?
but what you can't do is ask me a question and tell me how I must answer.
You
Shabir.
respectfully are reminding me of some gentlemen that I've discussed with, and they seem to do the same.
Shabir, you can't
I
ask
did
me a
not
question
interject
and determine
once.
how I. You just
Robert,
asked me a question.
I did not interject once when
Go
I'm
ahead,
speaking.
Shabir.
Yeah.
It's just that I thought you asked the question.
No. Robert, you see, at the end of the day, your subjective assessments you are entitled to. I have no problem with that. However, if you talk about Islam being from the cave, I talked about that. Islam as a system, if you have a problem with the system, I have no issue discussing things like that.
Yes.
But I started off with you when you said, I believe. I said, okay, whatever it is you are believing, all I want to know is what yardstick you use. Because that gives me an indication of what this subject matter and how it ought to be discussed. Okay? So when I asked you, you came out with this innate nature. Yeah? And each time you talked about how if I touched your daughter, you would kill. First said 360 gods, and then you switched into 360 idols, and I was going to correct you, but you corrected yourself, which was good.
It only became gods. They only became idols when you decided. At the time, they were gods.
Okay, you're entitled to that opinion as well. You see, I'm saying to you, Robert, it was very simple. If me and you, and I'm going to try and I mean this respectfully, Robert.
That means it's going to be disrespectful.
A simple mathematical one here.
Oh God, mathematics now.
If we all know 1 plus 1 is 2, it's good. If we all know 1 plus 1 is 2, yes, and somebody comes along and says it is 3, and he says to me, my innate belief tells me it is 3, should I accept it?
You know, I
According
think
to you,
at this stage, Shabir, if you're going to bring that type of argument to me, I'm not going to try and be funny. I've got my daughter who's 10 and a half.
Yeah.
If you're going to speak to me like that, I will send her to debate you, because I actually asked her to debate you earlier on. But if you're going to bring that argument, I prefer to bring my daughter in. I prefer to bring my daughter in.
Robert, if you are afraid, by all means, no problem. But I would say this to you, okay?
That is the worst type of kidology. But go on.
Robert, I'm only trying to follow you. Okay?
Okay.
If you
if you were following me,
Robert,
Shabir, you would speak speak with logic
Robert,
and not foolishness.
I'm trying to, but I have had to go down to your level respectfully. But I'll tell you this.
Wow,
What do you want me to say?
Can you
Because-
believe that?
I told
Because
you,
you are
I
not-
told you
you
that
are
this is
not-
exactly,
Robert,
this is exactly what would
Robert,
happen.
you
So
are
let
not.
me tell you. Let me just
Robert,
say to you.
Robert, you are not allowing me to finish.
No, because
You
what
keep
you're
interjecting.
doing-
You try and tell me I must debate your 10-year-old. Well, fine. But if you can't hack it, no problem. Anyway, what
It's
I'm
you that
saying
can't
to you,
hack it.
Robert,
That's why you resort into these.
Don't get emotional, don't worry. You see,
Emotional.
you
Not
see,
at all.
at the end of the day, Robert,
Oh.
the truth of the matter is you have not been able to tell me whether your contention about your yardstick is a valid one. Now, as I said to you, when you talked about the 360 gods and idols, you interjected and said something. I'm saying to you, Robert, look, it's not a problem. You also told me that you had gone to Hajj. Is that what, am I
97,
correct?
yeah.
You had gone.
Yes.
So at one time you were what we would call a conventional Muslim.
No.
Right, you weren't.
Never
so
conventional.
So you were an unconventional Muslim.
Yes.
And you went to Hajj.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. When you went to Hajj, you
Yes.
did something.
Yes.
Yeah, what did you do? Was it for the purpose of just learning, or was it because you genuinely accepted what was going on?
At the particular time, and I'm quite shocked that I'm going to explain this because what you've skillfully done is took me off the path again.
Thank you for that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You've quite skillfully tried to take me off the path again. But I'm going to play the game with you, Shabir. You understand? I'm going to play
Well,
the game.
if you want to play a game, then we may as well call it stop here. Because I'm not going to engage.
What you can't do,
Robert, I'm not going to
sorry,
engage in
Shabir.
a discussion.
I know you're perhaps not used to this, Shabir, but what you
No,
can't
no, I'm
do,
not used to
you can't
a
ask me
simple
a
argument.
question.
I agree with you.
You can't ask me a
Look,
question and determine
Robert, at the
how
end of
I
the
answer. Do you understand? This is 2016. You can't do that.
2016.
The point that I was making regarding
when we
you
started,
asked me about Hajj.
Robert, when
I
you
said
started,
to you in 1997,
Are you talking to me or
in
somebody else?
1997, you
Robert,
asked me a
look at
question, so I'm
Don't
going to
get
answer
emotional,
it.
Shabir.
Yeah?
Look at me,
Let me answer the
Robert,
question.
look at me.
You asked me a question, so I'm
Look
going to
at me,
answer it.
Robert,
I said
Robert.
normally I wouldn't answer the question,
Yeah.
and I said to you, I'm going to play the game. I don't know what you take that to mean. Do you understand? But I know what it means. But then again, perhaps it's innate to me and not innate to you.
Probably,
Let me just say to you that when I went on Hajj, you understand, there were two reasons that I went, possibly three reasons.
Yeah.
One, that I was curious, and I think that's part of the innate nature of human beings. In fact, if I go back to the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first instruction that he was given is read, which means to me to attain knowledge. So I was just acting in the spirit of Muhammad alayhi salam. Now, so when I went because I wanted to attain knowledge. What I had at the time was quote unquote intellectual knowledge. So of course I knew about books, I knew about teaching my children, I knew about putting them on the right path. And I see how my children are today, you know, one a head teacher, one a professor, so I believe that I've done a good job. The point that I was making is that when I went there, I went because I wanted knowledge. Secondly, I believe that most human beings, and this is borne out by what we see across the whole world, where for some reason they all have a belief system. For some reason, I don't know if it's part innate, I'm not certain what it is, but I went there believing that I had that within me and that there was a belief within me, and I went there, and so I wanted to experience what everybody else had spoken about. So I was under that particular belief system whereby, you know, everyone was taught that you make Hajj at least once in your life. So I then went. What happened with me, Shabir, and as I said to you, I'm very shocked that I'm even speaking to you about this, because this diverts from what I spoke about earlier on, which is why you give me that sinister Hillary Clinton type laugh. But let me just say to you that what happened to me is what's happening to more and more people who begin to question. Now, in Islam, it is my perception that you are not allowed to question, and I'm going to tell you why I say that. First and foremost, if somebody takes a book and they say that this book is perfection, and many times I've heard people say, if you look in this book, point out one thing that's wrong and no scientist can do, and they make all these weird assertions. How then do you argue against what you might believe are inaccuracies or things which just don't add up? On top of that, I believe that most human beings who are not totally bought in to the Western world, they understand, of foolishness, whereby they are completely mind controlled by what they see in the newspapers, they see on the television, or they listen to music.
That's right.
Or dare I say, listen to a religion which teaches you not to think, or if you do
right.
think, you can only think within the confines of that religion. I say that is an anathema. That's anathema to me, that a religion would say that that is the last prophet, this is the last book, this is perfection, you are an apostate, you deserve death, Allah is perfection, and Allah has a message for the entire world. The last point I'll make is this. One of the things that we do, and I do with my daughter all the time, we study all these different gods. We study them. There's a reason why we study all of these gods. And one thing that came out with all of the gods, which funnily enough, all of them preceded, it's only taken another 30 seconds, all of these preceded Muhammad alayhi salam. Most of them have exactly the same type of stories which are in the Quran, which makes me believe, as I said to you in the beginning, that the political situation at the time in Arabia made it necessary for them to have what the Jews had, which is their own book, and this is what they've spread across the world. I believe you have a right to spread that. What I don't believe you have a right to do is to tell me that I have to accept it.
No one's telling you anything.
Sorry to I'm going to go.
Can I
Oh, well, I thought you had finished. I thought you said he'd finished.
He's told me.
2 more minutes and then we've got to go.
2 more minutes, yeah. You can have the last 2 minutes.
How kind of you.
Thank you. I'm a kind person.
You see, thankfully you went to Mecca, didn't you? Right, I'll tell you what. Whichever way you look
Lots
at it.
of black people went to Mecca.
Robert,
I'm just saying,
I
Shabir.
didn't interject again.
But lots of
but
black
I
people
forgive
went.
you.
Yeah.
You see, at the end of the day, Robert, what you subjectively believe, no problem. I have no issue at all. However, you then, in that I personally believe spiel that you give, you will talk about Islam. Islam, yes, he is. Islam says this, Islam says that, Islam says this.
Where have I lied, Shabir?
We are all poor. So Shabir, we're not allowed to think. We're not allowed.
Well, that's what he says. I don't know. Yeah, but you see,
No, you're allowed to think, but as long as it's within the confines, as long as it's within the diameter,
Robert, my 2 minutes,
that
they
you're
will
allowed
become
to
2 hours.
think. Yeah, but
if I can just finish.
he interjected, I'm just answering.
Yeah, okay.
You're allowed your...
Yeah, my 2 minutes that you kindly gave me. Yeah?
I think it's is it 2 minutes of hate?
Not at all, thankfully.
Okay.
Yeah? As I said, you see, at the end of the day, Robert,
That was a line from George Orwell, by the way.
Respectfully, what you have said sounds quite confused, and I mean this respectfully. Yeah?
You use the word like
if I can, yeah, you sounded confused. But the point here is this.
Yeah.
Anyone who has a subjective view,
Yes.
they are totally entitled to it. Yes? But I do know in the final analysis, any subjective belief, when put to the test, is untestable because it is innate, according to you. Yeah? I would actually humbly submit to you that Islam as a system, okay, any disagreement, as you rightly pointed out, whether what happened to Ali, what happened to the caliphs, whatever it was, the point is that there was the system that was available then. That system is available today. Part of the system is a legal system in which it actually defines for you what killing is, what murder is, etc.
Yeah.
And it's an evolving one.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, it clearly means that you may have misunderstood what the Quran says. When you talk about the confines of the Quran, if you follow the logic of the Quran and it is due as guidance up to whatever the length of the or the age of the earth and the universe is, yeah, it is something that you can't just say it is within the confines, okay? Secondly, and finally I'll finish with this, any person who comes to me and tells me Islam does not permit you, as he pointed out, it doesn't allow you to think, but if it does, it is only within the confines of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I will humbly submit that that person really don't know what they're talking about.
But do you know the fantastic
if
thing
I can
is,
just finish,
you're
and then you
entitled to that opinion.
and you will see that whenever I have this conversation, since you watch the videos, at the end of the conversation, I will always ask for the forgiveness of the individual if anything untoward was said.
Yes.
That is what Islam.
You don't have that power over me to ask for forgiveness on my behalf. That's an
Robert, can I finish once?
That's an inbuilt superiority complex.
Can I just finish once?
You've got to tell that to people who believe that nonsense. You can't forgive me.
Robert, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said you
Don't
must
ask for forgiveness.
Robert, I said you must forgive me.
Yeah.
Now, if you have your innate belief telling you, no, I'm not going to accept that, that's fine. But the point is, something has taught me how to respectfully address somebody. Hey, we had a conversation, we said things to each other, but at the end of it, when I'm leaving, I want to make sure that I leave with a friend made rather than an enemy.
No,
so, if I can just finish, Robert.
We couldn't be friends.
Robert.
We couldn't be friends because your friendship is based on a
Robert,
deceit.
Can I
I'm just saying to you,
right,
it's based
you are
on a
entitled
deceit.
to that opinion also, like all the other opinions, which sound very funny.
Yeah.
But I said to you, look, at the end of the day, I would suggest this, Robert.
Yes.
A reasonable conversation is where certain things are mentioned, and then you assess them reasonably, rationally, logically to their conclusion before you move on to other things. You mentioned so many things, and I was there thinking, which strand should I take? I know what. Let's just start at the base here and go forward. As soon as we try to do that, something sparked in that innate nature of yours, and you decided, I'm not going to. Okay,
normally, history takes.
I'm not going to finish
normally
this.
the writing of history.
But what I would suggest.
Normally, the writing of history is written by the winners.
Look,
you're already rewriting history.
Can I finish?
You're already rewriting
Robert,
history.
you are entitled to that opinion, but let me finish,
You're already rewriting history regarding the conversation that we have, and I'm not going to accept that.
I allowed you, Robert, but let me just finish. Look, all I'm saying is, I would suggest if there is something you want to definitively discuss with me, and I appreciate that, I would rather we picked
this
on
is
one.
Patronizing beyond
No,
belief.
not at all. Let me finish.
It's
Robert,
patronizing.
let me finish.
I'm a grown man, and you're speaking to me like a child. You're patronizing, Shabir. If you wanted to, you know what
Robert,
you could have said. You could have said, Robert.
If you allow me to finish, you'll find out. Let me just finish. You see, Robert, all I'm saying is it would make more sense for us to pick on one topic, and let's discuss that to its logical conclusion.
I had one topic in the beginning.
No, respectfully.
I had one topic.
Respectfully,
I had
Robert.
one topic in the beginning.
Let me finish.
Yes.
Robert, honestly, when you view the videos back and when you started, I think it was nearly 10 minutes. And how many subjects you actually mentioned?
But they were all on Islam.
No, they were not.
Yes.
Respectfully, they were not. You can talk about something, but the base was that. But they are all based on something which, from my angle, were totally wrong. I have to address those first. This is a logical basis for discussion, rather than I came here. Who are you? You said when you asked, who are you? And then in the conversation you said, I've seen many of your videos. I'm thinking, well, if you've seen many of your videos, you didn't know who I was. Now, either you were lying or you genuinely forgot. I will give you the benefit of doubt.
That's very kind of you.
No problem. You are welcome. At the end of the day, what I'm saying to you, Robert, best way, you tell me what subject. And God willing, we will stick to that subject and discuss it like two men.
Well,
I'm more than entitled. I'm more than willing to do that.
Let me just say to you, I'm not going to shake your hand just yet until I've said what I've got to say. As I told you, I'm henotheistic, meaning that people are allowed their own beliefs without me impinging on them. As I said to you, I just listened to 5 minutes. Where we come from of what I say would be total disrespect. You understand? Packaged up, in religious bamboozlery. I'm saying to you, Shabir, that when we spoke initially, I only spoke about Islam and the schisms contained within the origins of Islam. This is what I spoke about. My aim, and I thought what I was going to have, because people told me that your understanding of Islam is right up there. I have to say that I'm really disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in your arguments. Yeah, I'm disappointed in your arguments. And you're right. Let me just say that earlier on I was being facetious, and I'll apologise for that. That was that was my ego getting in the way when I said, "Who are you?" So I'll apologise publicly. Do you understand about that? But I have to say to you, that's the only thing that I'll apologise for.
No problem.
Because when I start a subject and I wanted it to be serious, I wanted it to be a serious subject, and then what you do, and which is what I've seen many people do, they hold on to one thing that someone has said and then they wish to elucidate on that matter. I'm saying that I'm not going to accept that because I know exactly what was said. However, in future, if you wish to speak, because remember, Islam isn't monotheistic within Islam, you understand, but you will say that you believe more than other sects of Muslims believe, and that's fine. But any time you wish to have a discussion regarding Islam, and a serious one, you understand, without the insults and stuff, then I'm prepared to do that.
I said that.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying to you that I'm also prepared to do that.
No problem.
But, yeah, that's good. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you. Yeah. Like I said, John, if anything untoward, please do forgive me.
Sorry
Let us know the intention. Okay. Muhammad, wrap up.
To see more videos like this, subscribe to Titans TV down below. Thanks.
The greatest darky that bite with shark teeth and hate malarkey. Who you? The greatest heartbeat. Ancient Egypt is a
because you don't even understand that racism is a subconscious conversation that's going on in everyone's brain right now, bro. You don't even understand.
I think it's a conscious.
That's why.
I think it's
no,
conscious,
that
mate.
is why you went to
on the table, mate.
And we're like, oh no, it wasn't actually racist.
Okay, when I said
because there's a subconscious conversation already going on, bro.
No, a delusion is believing in something which is contrary to overwhelming evidence against it.
Like,
Who is the King of Kings? Jesus!